in Revio.com.
Everybody, welcome to Nerdgasm.
In the wrong place.
You might be missing our traditional posse right here. That's because today there's no Peppercorn Montgomery, and today there's no Joe Winchell. It is my show today because basically they'd be sitting, staring at me talk to people. So I said, you guys get the night off. The one advantage of that, however, is when I talk to my left, you can't hear me. When I talk to my right, you can't hear me. So now I'm just talking directly to you. Unless I'm looking at the wrong camera, in which case I look like an idiot. So tonight we have a very special show that's going to deal with indie filmmaking. We have a vast array of different guests and different types of filmmakers, people that I've become aware of on the filmmaking scene, and there's a chance for you guys at home to interact with them via the chat room. Now I'm going to be honest right here. Sometimes I'm not always looking at the chat room, so I might neglect one of your questions at one point. But in which case I apologize. Type whatever you want to type. I will most likely see it at some point. One last thing before we get into our guest tonight is last week we had kind of a spirited debate, Joe Winchell and myself. And for the first time in Nerdgasm history, the show got flagged. The show in the archive says you have to be above a certain age to play it. This is the show that had Jerry Horror hosting. Jerry Horror with the F-bombs. And I got flagged. I don't know. Find it a little ironic here. So without further ado, I want to go into our first filmmaker guest. This is Jim Hemphill. And if we can cut to his trailer, his latest film is called The Trouble with Truth. And we're going to have him shortly via Skype, and we're going to have a little Q&A with him. Now, I'm familiar with him being a horror filmmaker. You know, he did a little film called Bad Reputation a number of years ago that I saw in the film festival circuit. I'm like, this is a really well-made story. So he made the next logical progression from horror into romance because, after all, they are connected. So I think in just a moment, yeah, let's throw up his trailer.
I have a little news.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Dad.
Well, I think that the passion runs out of a relationship fast enough without starting, handicapped right out of the gate by marrying a pencil pusher.
I'm in love with him.
Well, fine, you're in love with him. Then why ruin it by getting married? I just don't want him to make the same mistake that we did.
Okay, what mistake is that?
Getting married too young.
You were in your 30s.
Like I said, too young. Oh, come on. You talk like I was Jimmy Page or somebody, constantly banging groupies on the road in hotel rooms.
You weren't?
Oh, God. If you'd seen some of the dumps that I stayed in when I was on the road, no. I never would have taken women back there. And that's why they tell you at the beginning of every relationship, you better make sure that the person that you're with is your best friend, because at least you have that when the passion inevitably dies.
See, that's the thing. Jack's never been my best friend. You were. You still are. You're dodging the question.
What?
Do you ever think you made a mistake letting me go?
I don't think I could have looked into your eyes anymore and lived with what I knew would be staring back at me.
I'm afraid that I'm gonna spend the rest of my life with somebody I don't love.
As you pointed out, and I think correctly, there are always consequences.
It's great to talk to you. First of all, the first film I saw of yours was Bad Reputation. So what's with all this romantic crap anyway? Why do you change gears so radically?
Sorry, what was the question? For some reason, my sound wasn't that great.
Okay, yeah, you have a little delay, so yeah, you have to turn off the program so you can hear me. I said I saw your first film, Bad Reputation, which was this really amazing low-budget horror film, Erie Horror Film Festival. I talked to Erie on the phone. They said that's like one of the favorite films that they've ever seen in that festival up to that point. And I noticed that you segued directly from one type of film to a very, very different type of film. I was wondering what the inspiration was to go from, Bad Reputation, which was about a girl in high school. That's pretty much, it's a little bit like Carrie minus the supernatural, into pretty much the antithesis of that type of movie. What was the inspiration to get into something so different?
Well, it wasn't necessarily like a calculated move to go that different. I mean, it really was sort of a more, it was kind of motivated more by practical considerations. After I did Bad Reputation, I thought I was going to do another horror movie. I wrote this sort of supernatural thriller that I was trying to get made, and it took, it was like a couple of years of trying to get that made. And it kept falling through. I had it set up at a couple of different production companies, and the executive who was going to, who was like my champion at one production company, got laid off, and so then we didn't get it.
But one thing, Jim, we actually have to ask you to turn down the monitor of the program that's on right now because we have a sound delay because I have such a foul mouth that they have to really delay it.
Okay.
So if you could just turn down the.
As far as I can tell, I don't have the actual show on anywhere. All I have on is my Skype. All I have on is my Skype. So how do I do that and still be able to hear you?
Well, that is a good question. Yeah, so I just hear some kind of echo. I'm not sure where it's coming from, but I guess we'll. Problem fixed. Problem fixed. Okay, that is not his film. Okay, so yeah, that's the inspiration. Now you got your start as a because I have your biography right here. You got your start more or less as a film critic, and when you were in college, and you go into actually it doesn't say where you were at USC. You were writing for Film Quarterly, Chicago Reader, and Cinefantastique, among other publications. So you wrote probably a number of reviews for other filmmakers. I was wondering at what point did it bite you in the ass? Because there's not a single time that a film critic writes a negative review for somebody that it doesn't get back to them at some point or another, where somebody sees you at a bar and they're like, "So, I saw your review."
Right. I guess I was lucky. Is it still echoing for you, or am I okay now?
We hear you good. We hear you well.
Okay, great. I'm kind of lucky. I guess I'm the exception to that rule. For me, being a film critic actually only helped me. It only ended up being a good thing for me in terms of my interactions with other filmmakers. Partly because, I was never a critic. I was never like a real critic. I mean, I almost would think of myself more as an enthusiast. I only for a brief period did I have a job where I actually had to review everything that came out. For the most part, when I wrote for the Chicago Reader, or when I wrote for Film Quarterly, or when I wrote for American Cinematographer magazine, I was sort of picking and choosing what movies I wrote about, and it was usually only things I really liked and was really enthusiastic about. I didn't write the ratio of positive to negative reviews that I did was really high. The only exception to that rule was for a little while I was writing for a website called Real.com, and when I was writing for them, I had to review everything, and I really didn't like it. Partly because, the one thing I don't like about reviewing as a job is if you have a deadline where you have to review a movie, the second you see it. I mean, sometimes I'd see a screening of a movie and my review would be due the next day because the movie was opening. And, some movies you need a little bit to let sink in a little bit more before you actually can formulate what you really think about them. And there are many reviews that I wrote that I now regret one way or the other. Either I overrated certain movies or underrated certain movies.
Do you also find that as when you've made films, because my appreciation for films have grown since I've made films, so whereas at one point I was really hard on something, I looked back at it and I kind of got the nuances, and even though it wasn't a perfect film for me, I still appreciated it a lot more than I did back then. Do you find the same thing?
Yeah, definitely. I think once you start making films, now when I go see movies, it's very, very rare that I see a movie that I feel like I don't get anything out of, because now that once you make a movie, you realize how hard it is just to make a bad one. I mean, to make a terrible movie is a ton of work. And
You got to have it wrong at every conceivable level, for it to really be like, a 1 on a scale of 1 to 10. You have to really work hard for that.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot of work. But anyway, I've sort of gotten off of your original question, which I actually, luckily, when I was a critic, I don't remember ever running into anyone who I had panned, but I did get the chance to meet a couple of directors who I had written positive reviews of the things of, and it ended up being, really, really helpful. I mean, I met Walter Hill after I wrote a piece on his movie Trespass in the Chicago Reader, and he became sort of a mentor to me, and I learned a lot about filmmaking from him. So for me, criticism actually was
it
really
opened
helpful.
doors. It wound up, it's kind of having the opposite effect that it has on some people. Some people become hated. You found the appreciation of people's works, and they in turn, found you. Now, Bad Reputation was made in 2005, or at least it was released approximately 2005, and your next film was 2011, 2012, somewhere. It's just being released right now. So in that break of time, that 6 or so year gap between the two films, how did you keep yourself occupied? What were you doing? I'm sure a lot of the time was spent trying to get the film off the ground.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, those release dates are always kind of fuzzy with independent films because, Bad Reputation, really, it came out on DVD and all that in 2007, but I think the first time we played at a festival was in Erie at the end of 2005. So that's why when you look at the release date on IMDb, it's 2005. And then Trouble with the Truth, we shot, at the end of 2010, and now it's finally coming out on VOD and DVD and all that stuff. And with these independent films, there's just sometimes, at least in my case, it seems like there's just such a long path to actually get from making them to getting them out there and, doing the whole festival route and all that stuff. But in between the two movies, for a while I was, like I said earlier, there was a movie I was trying to get made that just kept falling through. That was a thriller.
And will you return to that film now that this is out?
I'm sorry?
Now that this film is released, will you be returning to the thriller?
I would like to. I mean, I'd still like to make it. And, I wrote a couple things, and basically the reason I made Trouble with the Truth was just out of frustration and not being able to get the thriller going. So I said, okay, I'm going to write something that doesn't have any action, doesn't have any special effects, doesn't have anything that's going to cost any money, really, except, something where basically all I need is a couple of good actors,
right.
And I've got a movie. And that's
how exactly, we're short on time, but, how exactly do you want to put such A-level actors in your film? You went from this small film, the small horror film, into now A-level actors with your current film. How exactly did you get to them?
I got very lucky. I mean, part of it, I sort of wrote the script very pragmatically, trying to attract actors. I mean, it's very much like an actor-driven movie.
Right.
So I think any actor would read it and hopefully want to do it, which was the case. But in the case of Leah Thompson, I actually, out here in LA, I moderate Q&As at a theater called the American Cinematheque, and they did a Back to the Future triple feature.
Get the hell out of here!
I interviewed her there. I moderated a Q&A with her there, and that was how we met. And I don't think that's necessarily why she did the movie, but I mean, I kind of.
Well, you had an in at that point. You have the coolest connection to Leah Thompson. You met her at a Back to the Future triple screen. If it was somebody else, it'd have been like, oh God, this Back to the Future dork wants me to do his film. Okay, when you call my agent, I'll get back to you. And then she tells her agent, never call him back.
Yeah.
So anyway, where can people find your films?
Well, Bad Reputation right now, I think you can actually watch it for free on YouTube if you search for it, and it's on
illegally, pretty much illegally.
No, I think the distributor Maverick. I think they have a channel, Maverick Movies, on YouTube. I think you can actually watch it on YouTube, and it's legal, and there might be some commercials or something.
Okay. Yeah,
So
Bad Reputation is a really good indie horror thriller. I strongly recommend it. Your new film, I have yet to see it. I'm looking forward to it, and I thank you so much for.
The new one will be out on VOD and everything. You'll start rolling out on VOD starting Saturday. So people can be on the lookout, and it comes out on DVD June 3rd.
That's excellent. Okay. So we're going to move on to the next film. Thank you so much for calling in, Jim. And as I say, I really admire your work. So I would like to go into the trailer for Elana Mugdan's, I'm not going to say it's a finished film, but this is a tease for something that she's working on, and it sort of blew me away. So I'd like to cut into that trailer right now. That's called something. What's the name of this damn trailer? So, yeah, here we go.
studio that brought you Director's Cut.
Blaze? Please stay with me. Oh my God.
Kaida, what's happening to me?
You live in constant pain. You live in constant fear. There's a power inside of you. I can help you control it.
Two friends in mortal peril.
Don't let them take you.
Thrown into a world beyond their wildest dreams.
This isn't a game, and this isn't a movie. This isn't what you read in your X-Men comics. This is real, and the reality is that we are prisoners. And if you don't listen to me and learn to control your powers, then you will all die.
This would be deleterious to my physical and mental well-being, and forcing me to participate would be unconstitutional. I know my rights. Whoa!
We don't play by the rules here.
We are Draconis Olim.
But a secret threatens to destroy them.
Tell me who did this to us.
Ask the one who brought you here.
I just want to know why.
I made you more powerful than you could ever imagine.
You made us all monsters!
She's of no more use to us alive.
How can you be real?
I've always existed, Kaida. Some things need to be believed, to be seen.
It is not a question of right and wrong, Kaida. It is a question of what your heart believes is right.
What does Zarenrath want with us?
It was never you he wanted. We were all just pawns in his game.
A quest for truth. A fight for power.
You lied about everything else, but I know the magic of this crystal now.
An age-old war comes to an end.
Tell us where Kaida is, or you'll die here.
You won't kill me.
We have enough power.
Prove it.
At some point in our lives, each of us face a simple question. Few ever ask it, but once you do, the answer will set you free.
Who am I?
That is for you to decide.
Draconis Olim, the secret of the Dragon's Crystal.
The laws of science are disintegrating all around me.
Coming soon.
We are back, and we are here with our special guest, Elana. Mugdan, how are you? I haven't seen you in a long time there.
I haven't seen you in a long time. Thank you for having me. I'm well, apart from a little head cold, so if I sound like I have the plague, I apologize in advance.
Sorry. So now the clip that we just showed, this is a trailer for a film that's still in pre-production, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right? That's still a film that you're in the process of making?
It's well, actually, it's not quite that. I had this concept in high school, actually, and I made in high school a trilogy of 3 feature films centered around this concept. And then, once I started getting into the professional film world, sorry, I kind of gathered my old friends back together, and I said, let's make a trailer for, in case somebody with $50 million sees it and thinks it's a good concept. And
I've got $50 million floating around.
Oh, do you really? Oh, well, that's fantastic. Then we should talk.
Okay, well, did I say 50 million? I meant 50 cents.
Oh.
So now,
stretch 50 cents a long way, let me tell you that.
that's true. I mean, I'm looking at, I'm blown away by some of these effects that you're able to pull off. You have such, you're talented and you have a talented pool of people working around you, and I'm so blown away by, the shots of the dragon, some of the landscapes. I'm not sure how you even, I'm a filmmaker. I've done 3 feature films. I don't know how you do some of that stuff.
I mean, a lot of it I owe to my special effects crew, which honestly was really just my friend Eugene and me. And he took care of all the 3D stuff. So the dragon, which I personally, that's my favorite part. He handled all of that, and then I did some of the more, simpler After Effects, just basic compositing stuff. The scenes where they have the mountains in the background, I just did that with, rotoscoping. So it was absolutely a labor of love. It took a very long time to do some of the effects, and but ultimately I think it came together. And obviously, and now it's already 2 years old, and I look back on it and I'm like, wow.
What would you do? That's a good question. What would you do like 2 years, like now, if you were to do the same thing over again? What would you do?
I'd have a budget, first of all. We had only really $1,000 to play with for this entire thing, which sounds maybe like a lot of money to the untrained ear, but is really a pittance to do something of this magnitude. And so, I hate to say it, but like if you throw enough money at something, it does eventually get better.
Well, you get production value. So maybe on the page it doesn't get better, but at least it looks,
I would. If I were making a feature film, that's a different story. I would have to go in and rework the script, and make it make sense and make it not just an adaptation of something that we wrote while we were in high school. But it's in the very core of it, at the center of the story. I think it's a really interesting concept, and the films played around with the concept of good versus evil, and and kind of blurred the lines between those a little bit, which I really...
You're such a nerd girl, and that's what's amazing about having you on the show. You're like the perfect guest. Did you have a snake on you before when you first called in?
Yes, I did. And this is Medusa.
Go get the snake, Eve.
Yeah, as another additional special guest. Say hello, boo-boo. This is Medusa for all of you guys at home who are watching and who like snakes.
Okay. Now, your first
the final cut of the new movie.
Your first film was a little something called Director's Cut. That's where I became aware of you, not to be confused with the slasher film Director's Cut.
Right.
And that was you. Like, you were how old when you made your first feature film?
That's a good question.
You're like 22, 23.
I must have been 20. Not the greatest at math. So that was 2009. I wrote the script, and then the tail end of 2009, I started doing auditions and lock and key crew and everything in, and then we shot it partially in the beginning of 2010. In March, we did like a little winter splinter unit, and then principal photography took place in May of 2010. So I was 20 when that happened.
So yeah, you pretty much blown everybody else away that you're doing it. Like people will do their first feature film. It took me years, and I was 30 or 40 by the time I'm done. You got it done at 20. So you put half the age of people who were doing it for the first time in a lot of cases.
And the thing about that was I left college a year early. I got done with a 4.5-year degree in 3 years, and I was done.
You spent that last year, making this film.
Never going back to school, and I'm still thrilled about it.
Now, you got something very interesting coming up. It's like, I just marvel at the balls you have for this, and I know that's a physical impossibility, but I love what you're doing next, which is you're making a film, a sci-fi film.
Yes.
And it's written, it's made by you, and it's starring you in every conceivable role. This is like a one-woman operation.
Oh,
yes.
Much. We're talking about now the possible magnum opus and or possible greatest failure to date.
I can't, I'm so excited to see that. This is this is not something I would dare do. You're crazy, woman. That's amazing. Like, I can't wait to see what you do.
I am well aware that I am either masochistic or psychotic or both.
You know, like, no, I'm really excited to see what you do with it. And I've seen some stills that you had from it. And lastly, you know, when I was looking through your filmography, I noticed a little something on your record called Jersey Shore Massacre. Can we throw that picture up there? Now, it wasn't something that you made. It's something that you were involved with, you know, I think in varying positions. So what was it like being on the set of that film?
It was great. It was back in the summer of 2010 was when principal photography took place. And it was, I guess, probably at that point my biggest feature film experience. So it was really exciting to be on set.
Is the film every bit as good as it looks? Because it looks phenomenal.
It's even better. It is even better.
Okay, now,
you know, without giving too much away, it's kind of, you know, it is trying to spoof the reality show a little bit, and so they got a bunch of people who kind of look/act like the cast of Jersey Shore.
Well, look, if it contains people from Jersey Shore getting killed, I'm all for it.
Well, this is, I mean, these are the characters that
they
the
represent.
characters in this script are based on, and then one by one they start dying. So,
what a shame.
ending, I guess.
You know, so, and lastly, how many meatheads attempted to pick you up on that film set?
How many what?
Meatheads attempted to pick you up on that film set. Hey, you're a woman, I'm a guy. Why don't we like hook up?
You know, surprisingly, very few. It was, I was behind the scenes, and I was mostly doing like, honestly,
so
like I was
that cute girl is all the way down there, but I'd have to walk all over to her, to walk all the way down there to pick her up.
That's kind of what it was like. They would be filming in the main house, and I would be, you know, quarantined over in the back,
right.
Doing my work. But you know, I think probably because I was dealing a lot with the food, with craft services, I was probably, you know, secretly everybody's favorite person.
Where can people find you if they want to find you on, you know, Twitter? Or how exactly do people track you down?
Yeah, all right, cool. We can do that. I am on YouTube, and that's probably my strongest online presence. And my YouTube username is Dragons Equal Life.
Dragons Equal Life.
Dragons Equal Life. That's easy enough to remember. And I recently I had to get a Twitter, so I've joined the Twitverse, and I've become a twit. And Twitter I'm not a fan of, but it's actually I've grown to appreciate it more. And my Twitter handle is Dragon Spleen.
You and the dragons, babe. You got a little thing for dragons there.
Did you see the trailer? It's all about dragons.
Okay, thank you so much, Elana, for coming on. We apologize for the delay. Let's everybody track you down on YouTube and however else. And thank you so much for coming on. You look wonderful.
Thank you for having me. It was good seeing you.
Take care. Now, next up, we're going to be moving on to Ben Cooper's movie called Primitive. Is that right? Yeah, his new movie is called Primitive. And we're going to take a look at the trailer for this thing. I guess it's kind of monster movie.
The mind is a very powerful force. It seeks to destroy by aggression.
Everyone has a dark side.
You've never been to a hypnotherapist before? Never. Look very deeply into my eyes.
But not everyone
Martin, wake up!
can contain it.
What did this?
I'm told the prints don't belong to anything in the animal kingdom.
Featuring creature effects by Sci-Fi's face-off Tom Devlin.
Why are you so scared?
Stein.
Something is happening. I think it has something to do with our session a few days ago.
Him, isn't it?
Starring horror legend Reggie Bannister.
We unleash this thing, and we are the only ones who can stop it.
The greatest evil comes from within. Primitive.
Hey, Ben. We're back with Ben Cooper, the filmmaker behind Primitive. And now, Ben, this is a monster movie first and foremost, right? Now, if you had a pitch, I'm sure you had to pitch this movie to a lot of different people. How did you present it? This is a cross between King Kong and Torch Song Trilogy. What was your pitch as you went to?
I had my log line down. See if I can remember it. I don't know. A Hollywood special effects artist has to face his inner demon made flesh before it tears his life to pieces, something like that. And it was kind of my personal take on Forbidden Planet, which was an old sci-fi movie. It's one of my favorites.
Nielsen. Right, yeah. The
same kind of material, but it takes place in the woods.
Right, I guess, yeah, that one was outer space. This one you put like right, dead smack in the woods. And so, you have a lot of, you have a fairly decent filmography. I'd seen this little movie you did called Brinke. I actually saw it. Maverick Releasing put that out a few years earlier. So thinking like, you really had a good handle of filmmaking, even back, in your debut film there. Or I'm assuming that your debut film. What did you learn between Brinke and now Primitive?
I learned that my goal was to make a movie that I could actually sell and turn a profit, just so I could make another movie.
You capitalist bastard.
And I love horror pictures, though, and so I did the Brinke, and we could have sold the Brinke for a lot more if it had been a little longer. It's like a 70-minute movie, right? And a lot of the movies that I love are 70-minute movies. Charles Band was putting out a bunch of 70-minute movies, but distributors not really interested. But Maverick took a chance on it, and we were able to sell many foreign territories. So I knew for my next movie, I wanted to step up the budget so that it would be a little more comfortable, have a little more production value, and make a longer movie so I could get a better licensing deal.
I'm going to tell you a little something about Reggie Bannister. I'm very upset with Reggie Bannister. Let me tell you why. My film was in the Elvira Horror Hunt, and I was in a top contention for a for top prize at the Elvira's Horror Hunt. I sent him my DVD, as I was told to, and he sent it back unopened, said I don't receive unsolicited package, when I was told to send it to him. What's his deal?
Who told you to send it to him?
Horror Hunt, I'm busting, that happened, and I'm not upset about it. So if he's that hard to get in touch with, how did you get in touch with Reggie Bannister?
Well, I don't know. I wrote this. Well, I didn't. I bought this script that became Primitive, and I tried to beef up that role so it would be more interesting to name actor. And basically, I called Gigi, his wife and manager, and told her I had this show I'm putting together. I have the money in the bank. It's ready to go. And so they took a look at it, and they liked it, and the rest is history,
How cheesy do you try to make the film versus not make the film? Because you're dealing with a genre that's kind of that's sort of lambasting in cheese, right? So do you try to make some of it intentionally funny, or do you want to play it all completely straight? What was your approach as you were making this, as you were writing?
Well, I try to put a little wry humor in there, but I don't really have to go out of my way to add a little cheese. It kind of just comes out naturally. The kind of movie I'm interested in making is not really highly disturbing. I want a kind of a fun scare fest,
right? Something kind of more akin to the Hammer movies and the Universal movies versus like modern torture porn. That's your inspiration.
Yeah. Come again?
I said something more akin to the older movies, the older kind of horror films, the old Wolfman kind of movies versus the modern torture porn movies.
Yeah, well, whatever makes me laugh. Basically, I want the audience to have a good time and leave the theater, kind of like a roller coaster ride. That's another thing I learned between the Brinke and Primitive. And the Brinke, there was like one pretty reliable scare that everyone would jump at, and I figured if I could have at least 3 of those in the movie, then I'd be in really good shape. And I think I got 3 or 4 in Primitive. So
well, how important is sound design to something like that? 'Cause let me tell you something that bugs me about modern horror films. They crank the volume up when they want to scare you, and sometimes sound design beautifully heightens scares, and other times it just like bombards you. You know, how important was sound design for you when you were creating, you know, all this effects, and how involved did you get, you know, with that aspect of it?
My approach for creating scares was I took a cue from Stephen King, and he said once that you know, if you can disturb the reader, you know, do that. If you can't do that, then shock them, and if you can't do that, then gross them out. And so I tried to do the whole. I tried to create moments that run that gamut. And so as far as sound design, you know, sometimes you need a sting for that shock. And sometimes when you're trying to achieve something a little different, then you don't go with a loud sting. You go with maybe a kind of a droning soundtrack. I had a great composer called, his name is Leroux Delachey, and he did an incredible job on Primitive. And I think you'll agree if you check it out.
Now, you have something, you know, obviously this film looks great. Everybody should go back. They should check out Brinke. That was a well-done suspense film on a very low budget. And this one is like, you know, looks like it's 5 steps up just in terms of production value and content. It's much more ambitious. Now, you are in pre-production or in post-production on Edgar Allan Poe's Lighthouse Keeper. What the hell is that?
The Lighthouse was Edgar Allan Poe's last short story, and he died before it was complete, or at least that's what most people believe, because it kind of just ends abruptly. Right. But I noticed that it had never been adapted for the screen, and some of my favorite movies are the Roger Corman Poe movies that he did with Vincent Price and House of Usher and them. And so I wanted to do something in that vein. I didn't believe that I could match his talent, but I made a go of it. And Vincent Price is dead and buried, so I cast Vernon Wells from Road Warrior and you know, Inner Space and
wow. And when will that be available? When will this film actually be complete and playing the festivals?
Well, I'm in post-production now. In fact, I'm about a day away from finishing my director's cut, and then we have a long ways to go. I got to do color grading, effects, and you know, sound and music.
And where can people follow you? Like, do you have a Twitter handle?
Do
you have like a Twitter handle and all of that? How are people going to be able to find you?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter under my username is Microbuster.
Microbuster, as in like micro budget kind of thing? Is that your inspiration?
Yeah, as in like Little Blockbuster.
Microbuster.
Yeah, and then you can, there's the official website for Primitive is primitivethemovie.net.
Ah.
The Lighthouse Keeper is lighthousekeeper.movie.com. And we're on Facebook too under those
and in the words of Columbo, just one last thing. As a matter of fact, you were an editor on Almighty Thor by the Asylum, the great people who brought us Sharknado.
Yeah, co-editor. Yeah.
All right. So how exactly did that happen?
Pardon me?
How exactly did that happen? How exactly? Because this is somehow at a left field. Because here you're this filmmaker, you're this director, you're doing all this other stuff, and Almighty Thor, boom, you know, on your resume as an editor. They seem so different than everything else you have on your resume. How did that come about?
Well, an old film school friend has worked for the Asylum for a long time. He and I both went to Allen Hancock College Film School in Santa Maria. We used to call it Harvard by the Highway. He's worked there as their post supervisor, and he does all their color grading and stuff. We had lunch, and it's just so happened they needed someone to edit over the holidays that year.
I was like, you're a guy, you have a pulse, you'd be perfect.
Well, I thought, well, I got to try this, you know, get my foot in the door.
Was it fun, or was it like, and does Asylum breathe down your neck, or how much freedom do they give you? And then we're actually going to head to our next guest. But, you know, lastly, I mean, when you're editing a film like that, how hands-on are they versus they let you do your own thing?
Well, I was available to do the director's cut, the first cut.
Right.
And they pretty much left me alone to do it. You know, they have a certain way of doing things. They gave me a little speech, and then they sent me on my way. The only thing is, they said, you have 2 weeks to do it. And I thought, well, that's no problem. I can do that in my sleep. But then they said, you have to do a temporary sound build and a temporary music in that 2 weeks also.
Oh.
And that just wrecked me. So,
wow, you didn't sleep those 2 weeks. All right, so we're behind on schedule. So I'm gonna thank you for coming on to the show.
Thanks, Dave.
Your film looks great, and let's stay in touch. And everybody, track you down, check out your work.
Take care.
Take care. Now, next up, we're gonna have a filmmaker named Patrick Rhea on. Now, the thing about Patrick is we had a trailer of his. We had like a 1-minute reel. So you're going to have to settle on the poster for his film because it was a technical problem with that reel and getting on the show. So I apologize, Patrick. Now, Patrick's a filmmaker behind many, many, many short films that keep like cleaning up at horror film festivals. And it's the kind of film, he makes me mad. Because I'm going to tell you what, I go to this film festival and like his film beats me on everything. You know, we're all like nominated for like the same thing and he beats me in everything. This film, Nailbiter, was like cleaning up at every horror festival that I was at. And I've seen it. It's really Hitchcockian. It's almost like a hybrid of a low-budget horror film meets a 1940s monster movie meets a Hitchcock film. And Patrick is a very talented filmmaker who's done, that was his, I think, debut feature film. And now he's, moved on to, I think he's moving on to other shorts and other features. He's an interesting guy, and let me tell you why I like Patrick so much. You know what's amazing about Patrick? When I was screening my film at the Fright Night Film Festival, nobody laughed harder than Patrick. Like there was like a small audience, and there was like Patrick in the front row, and I just kept hearing, ah! So like, you're my buddy now, man. Now I really like it. So I think we have him on Skype calling in. Is that right?
I'm right here.
Patrick, buddy, how are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
Good. So now we got your career to talk about, my friend. So Nailbiter finally won its 5,000th award. Are you happy? Are you satisfied already?
I think I'm satisfied now. Yes, I can put it to rest. No,
okay.
It wasn't quite 5,000, but well, maybe 20.
When my film would compete against you for when I would see I get into a festival, all right, and then I'd see it competing against you, I'd say, God damn it, I lost. That's pretty much how it went every single time.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. You had a nice budget. It's a straight horror film. It's well done. I like it. I like your film.
Thank you.
And I saw it in Redbox. It's really out there.
It's definitely been doing well. I was on FearNet. I think it premiered on FearNet the 19th of January on the channel, and it's playing again on the 31st. And it seems like it's doing well. So yeah, hopefully we can make a sequel.
Or you can look at that script I sent you and make that instead.
Yeah, I gotta look at that. I know.
I saw Patrick in 2012, and I got the script for you. I think you'd be perfect. And he's like, yeah, let me check it out. And now it's a year later.
I became dyslexic. I can't read now. I'm sorry.
You can write, you can't read.
Yeah. Exactly.
I'm on to you, Patrick. So what is the most successful of your short films? Because you've done a lot of different shorts along the way, that have gotten a lot of recognition as well.
Right. Well, I would have to say Get Off My Porch is probably our most successful one because it was a horror comedy, and it involves a guy being harassed by two evil Girl Scouts trying to sell him cookies, and it seems like everyone can relate to that in some capacity. And FearNet ended up licensing that short for their site, and then it won a Heartland Emmy, I think in 2011. So it really is, it's played at about 50 film festivals at this point too. So it's done really well for itself. And I got Harry Manfredini, who did the score for the original Friday the 13th movies, to do the music score for it. And so, I think it turned out really well. And I think sometimes horror comedies just hits the right spot with people. And it manages to appeal to not just horror people, but also, people just like to have a good laugh. So.
Patrick, you're making me cry like a baby. Did you hear me?
You're crying.
Yeah. So Get Off the Porch, was that inspired by like an old neighbor? that would say that to you?
No, I actually was inspired by the fact that I had to go around to different people's houses as a kid because I was a Boy Scout, and I had to solicit. I was like, okay, buy this chocolate bar and give me $5 so I can, go to camp. And after doing that for years, I was like, what if this was a horror movie? And we just took it from there. So
I love it.
And of course, they're called adventure girls in the movie. We can't call them Girl Scouts because
Girl Scouts are TM'd, they're trademarked.
I think so, yeah. And I didn't even want to test it. I just wanted to keep it different. But same thing with Thin Mints. I didn't want to call them Thin Mints in the movie, so I just left it as kind of a nondescript chocolate cookie or whatever. So yeah. So I don't know. I think that film was a lot of fun, and the one that we just finished, I think, is kind of a good blend of horror and comedy as well. So I think that one's going to do well as well. So.
Are we talking about Elevator?
Oh no, we're talking about Counterparts. The one
Counterparts is another short film?
Yeah, another short film. So I think that one's going to be the one that it's going to have a nice shelf life on the festival circuit. So.
Okay, and what the hell is Elevator?
Well, that's a project I'm working on with several filmmakers. I've got it's Jennifer Blanc and Michael Bean's company, and it's a anthology where each story takes place inside of an elevator. And right now I've got several filmmakers in talks to do one, and it should be a lot of fun.
Right.
You're coughing, I know.
Several filmmakers. Let's forget that one whose film I laughed at so heartily back in Oklahoma. We'll just pretend he didn't exist.
Oh, no.
So no, that sounds. I had no idea what that was about, and
I mean, we're not really sure when we're shooting that yet, because right now there's a lot of. I mean, I've got several projects I'm working on right now that it all depends on when those fall into place, and our next feature film that we're doing, Enclosure, which we might be shooting in August. So it's all depending on that, and I'm waiting. It's just I'm playing the waiting game with some of the financing and such. So the typical. Independent
yeah, that's what I mean. Orson Welles was saying that this is less than 10% show and 90% business, where you're just spending all that time trying to get the damn money to make it, and then you're spending 10% of your time actually making the damn film.
Well, right, and that's kind of why I make a lot of short films in between feature film projects, is because I just, for one, I don't want to go crazy and not make anything, and then number two, I just like to be able to go out and shoot something in a three-day period and get it out there to the world, and keep building some interest on the projects we're working on. So it's like, I think that I'm going to continue to make short films between feature film projects, just so.
Now you do a lot of professional film work between your own personal films. Am I not mistaken?
Exactly.
Like, what do you get hired for? Like, what kind of films do you do between the horror films that you're behind?
Well, I mean, I've been hired recently. I've been hired to do some short films for hire. I just did Counterparts was actually a short film for hire. I actually had an actress in Kansas City approach me and say, "Look, I want to do a short film that I'm the lead in," and she said, "I'll finance it if you write me a script." And obviously we work together on it and stuff. And so I did that, and we shot it in August, and it went really well. And then I just did another short film. That it was written by a lady here in town, Kansas City, and she just wanted to get it made. And so I'm taking a lot of, and of course it depends on whether or not I like the script and such, but taking a lot of people's projects, and if I really like them, I'll do them.
You were like Kansas's biggest celebrity since Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz.
Oh, no, come on now. I look more like Toto. Come on.
Now, how can people find you? How can people find you on, they want to track you on your work or whatever, like find you on Facebook, find you on Twitter?
Facebook for me is like the best way to get a hold of me. Just look up Patrick Ray, REA on Facebook, and send me a friend request. And I'm pretty good about just talking to everybody. And I'm on Twitter as Patrick M. Ray, lowercase Patrick M. Ray. And then you can see some of my films on Vimeo. Get Off My Porch is on Vimeo. Trying to think, we've got some films coming up and some film festivals. I can't really announce them right now. We've got one that I did that's not horror. It's actually a dramatic film, and it's gotten some pretty big film festivals coming up. But if you follow me on Twitter or friend me on Facebook, I usually announce all that stuff there, so you can, check out my films that way.
So, Patrick, I'm going to cut you loose. We're going to go to commercial. We got 3 more guests. It was wonderful talking to you.
Great.
Seeing you eye to
Awesome.
eye. Actually, you can't see me, so you have no idea what I look like right now. So we'll connect more on Facebook. You're a great guy, and I can't wait to see your next work.
All right. Sounds good, man. Appreciate it.
You take care. And now is the time on Nerdgasm that we're going to hit a commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to be here with the great David Bonner. So sit tight.
InRevio.com.
Welcome back, people. Welcome to our special episode of Nerdgasm, where we're talking to nothing but indie film people. Now, my next guest is somebody that I saw on the set of a film that I was playing a zombie in. And I was like, first thing I thought when I saw him was, what's Jesse Pinkman from Breaking Bad doing on this movie? And then I was looking more closely at what he was doing, and I could tell that he was somebody that really knew his way around a film set. And I learned he was assistant director, and the more that I looked into his filmography, I noticed that he has a wealth of credits that include acting as well. So let's throw on David Bonner. There you are. What happened to your head, man? Your hair's gone. Do you hear me, Dave? Do you hear me? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I hear you on a loop, though. You just said the Jesse Pinkman line.
All right, I did. Okay, so turn off the.
I'll take down the live stream. Sorry.
Okay, yeah, that will like make your head explode if you.
I watched that happen 3 guests ago.
Okay.
And I put on my headphones because I figured, I'll have my headphones on, then it won't be a problem.
Yeah.
So now we're fine.
So let me ask you. I first saw you as an assistant.
I don't have my most colorful Jesse Pinkman hat, but anyway.
That's right, bitches. So I first saw you on the set of Zombie Killers Elephants Graveyard, and I saw you were wearing a lot of hats, not this one, and you were just doing a lot of like different tasks and responsibilities. And I was wondering, like, are you more interested at this point in time pursuing behind the camera or in front of the camera?
I've actually had this conversation in different ways a lot recently, less about what I want to do and just sort of about what matters in telling a story, because there's actors who you respect as being really great actors. And then I was on a set today where someone was talking about what a horrible actor Al Pacino was. And it was because they didn't like Scarface. And different people have different opinions of Scarface, but it really blew my mind that there was a person who thought Al Pacino couldn't act because this person didn't like Scarface. And that came down to them not liking the writing or the direction of the film. I think what I'm interested in is connecting and communicating with an audience. So I'd really prefer to work behind the camera if I could only do one, because I think what we have a real lack of in this country is great content, great material, great stories being told. So you have a lot of really great actors, A-list top-name actors who may be phenomenal in a phenomenal role, and then the next week some kid can say something about them because they happen to have seen this other movie because we don't have enough good material out there.
Well, I find that like sometimes people, when they're looking at actors, they're reacting to different kinds of things. It's like, I don't like that actor's voice or that actor's hairstyle, therefore he's a horrible actor.
Yeah. Trivial, ridiculous stuff like that. Exactly.
Are you saying you want to avoid that kind of criticism by getting behind the camera?
It's less about avoiding the criticism. And I'm trying to mute so I can see the stream. Yeah. It's not about avoiding the criticism. It's just that I want to be involved in telling stories, and I think we need more people creating the stories. I'd love to act and write and direct, as I know you've been able to do with great success. But if I had
that's
to pick
debatable.
one, I would just go with probably writing.
Speaking of which, you've been working on a screenplay for a good how many years? You were telling me that you have something in the works.
It was a 1-act play, August 3rd of 2006. So 7.5 years. This has been a story. It was a screenplay for the first time in the fall of 2007. It's been through a couple mini development deals with independent financiers, but it's something that is a story I'm passionate about telling, and people have wanted it to change in ways that I wasn't comfortable with, because at the end of the day, I would love to be hugely successful and hugely wealthy, but what matters to me more is telling a story, and that probably sounds very naive.
Sure, I know that there's someone in the chat room who told me this story that Smoke Signals, that great film about Native Americans, was brought to studios, and the one studio note was, can you change this to be about a couple of generic white American boys, which changed the whole dynamic of it, which took away everything that made it what it was, but somehow in their eyes made it more
commercial, to make it acceptable.
Right, and you're killing everything that that was true to you, about the piece.
Yeah, that's exactly, you get it.
Now, I noticed that amongst your film credits, because this almost like I noticed like on the set of Zombie Killers, you were just doing some behind the scenes work. Were you like the director? It's like, so no part for me. So you know, I act, man. How did it come about?
I was first AD and one of the co-producers on Zombie Killers. I acted with the director, Bruce Harrison Smith. I was one of the leads in his film 6 Degrees of Hell a couple years earlier with Corey Feldman. After that, we did Camp Dread with Eric Roberts and Danielle Harris. And on that, I was first AD. And I stopped acting with him at that point. I think part of it is utilization, that I really have a lot of strength behind the camera. And there's talk in the next film we're going to be working on together. He says he's writing a small role for me because he wants to get me back in front of the camera, but that we want to not take too much of my energies away from the production side of things.
Right. Right. Well, I also noticed that in No One Gets Out of Here Alive, I think that's Christopher James Christopher? Oh, wait,
yeah,
what's his character's name?
J. Christopher. Yeah.
You played a character named Darren. Now, that's based on a CKY song, so you're essentially playing, the name is inspired by the guy who played my evil Santa Claus, the lead singer of CKY, Darren Miller, because the song Nobody Gets Out of Here Alive is based on a CKY song. Now, at what point did you find that out?
I found that actually Felissa was in Camp Dread also, and that she and I worked together on Camp Dread, and then also, well, on Zombie Killers, you saw her that day. So we've worked together on 2 movies as well now.
So I noticed there's almost an incestuous kind of relationship with, like, when I look at the cast and crew of a lot of the films that you're involved in, it's like Angel. I've seen Angel in that from like 5-10 cast members keep migrating from one film to the next. So you guys got this like tight little clique here. You know,
yeah, I don't know if clique is exactly the word, but there's a group of actors and production professionals in the Philly area. Joe Raffa, who I think you have a picture cycling of he and I. Right. He's my best man. He's one of my best friends for years now. And he brought together a lot of actors and production professionals who had sort of interacted in different ways over the years in the Philadelphia area for a film called You'll Know My Name back in 2010. Coming out of that, Bruce Harrison Smith saw that film and was so impressed by the quality of it for the budget that it had to work with that he brought a lot of them on board for 6 Degrees of Hell, and then sort of that group of people has consistently worked together on 3 or 4 movies. Brian Gallagher, who was one of the producers on Camp Dread and also
the guy with 75% facial hair.
Yeah, completely covered. He I think they're going to remake Harry and the Hendersons with him. He and I have worked together on 5 movies now. And he's a guy I love. We get together every couple weeks and just pitch each other movie ideas and run through elaborate permutations of these stories and find all the reasons that they can't work and the reasons we can make things better. And it's a lot of fun when you get a relationship with people that you can work with consistently, that it's still exciting and interesting to talk about things and you can just enjoy these people. Why would you stop?
Now, what is the future? This screenplay of yours, because, you know, I know somebody else in the chat room right now that literally you can write and rewrite something and you get stuck and you don't know exactly when you're going to finish that thing. What is your ETA? At what point do you think you're going to be finished with this?
Well, it's been I'm in the 30-some-odd draft of this screenplay. And part of the problem is that it's ambitious. It needs a good chunk of money to do it right. And I want to do it right. One thing that I've been working on for about a year now is looking at a novelization of it, because you can publish a novel. Right. You don't need $500,000 to publish a good novel. I'm also working on another novel and some shorter pieces that I'm looking at potentially getting published, and I'm trying to sort of backdoor the approach, as you've probably encountered as well as a screenwriter. It's difficult to get people in Hollywood to look at material because there's such a concern about intellectual property that you'll accuse them later of something, partially because, as you know, you saw with The Hateful Eight being leaked this past week, everybody is looking to pass around a script and there's no integrity. And then it can become so much drama. So it's not a very good short answer, but the short answer is to keep writing and keep trying. And trust that you have the right story to tell, and that eventually it'll be told.
Well,
Right.
David, I got a great vibe from you right when we were on the set together. I liked you very much personally, and hopefully I'm going to stay in touch. Best of luck with everything that you continue to work on, and hopefully we'll catch each other on another film set.
Yeah, I'll look forward to it. Thanks very much, Dave.
Thank you. We're now going to be moving on to a trailer by Matt and Myron Smith. In the middle of the trailer, we're going to actually cut to Matt and Myron themselves down from Virginia. This is the most uber indie film that we have on the show so far. I would say that this is really these guys just reaching into their own back pocket, using whatever resources they had to make this film, right down in the heart of Virginia. So if we could put up that trailer for Youngblood's Evil Intentions.
It's time present! I'm going to give you something much better than a material possession. I'm going to turn you into a vampire just like me. You can never tell Mom and Dale about this.
Aren't we going to get in trouble when Dale sees my neck? I'm sorry, Grandmama. I'm sorry, Grandmama.
There's blood, there's mayhem, there's disembowelment, dismemberment. It's horrible, it's awful.
You shouldn't be messing around with things you don't understand.
Oh, I understand, all right. We're going to turn the whole school into vampires, and there will be blood.
What got into you?
The whole student body is going to the nurse's office.
Annabelle!
I know what my little angels are up to now.
Disregard this call.
You're hiding something. You were there, weren't you?
You've got nothing on me.
The biggest thing I can emphasize is it's important to stay calm.
We must vanquish the evil by any means necessary.
But what can we do, preacher?
Kill those vampires!
Yeah! We're all gonna do something about it! Yeah!
These kids want to suck our blood. The children have to feed.
You've got to learn to control that temper of yours.
Oh my God!
Calm down! Jeffrey!
We're back. That is Youngblood's Evil Intentions, shut down in Virginia by Matt and Myron. Oh my God, Matt, what happened to your face? You're all like bearded and dreadlocked and stuff. So you look entirely different from the last time that I saw you. You know, because we did an event together. My co-star was in your film, and. She was the one that said, "Hey, there's two Virginia filmmakers. You know, they're just working out of their own pocket, and we did a double screening down in the heart of where you live." So tell us, how did this film come together? Like, what gave you the idea for this what do you call it? This evil child movie? I'm not at my most articulate right now. Take it away, guys. So, like, what gave you the idea for this particular storyline?
Well, it's just something that kind of came together. I had the kids, and they're really good actors, and I thought maybe they'd, I tried to write something with some kids involved, and then we put this together, and it's very, very loosely based on, but I don't know, it just started writing itself after a while.
Yeah, we've always been fans of the killer kid genre. Any horror film with children in it is particularly scary, so definitely wanted to take advantage of the opportunity, for sure.
Now, how is it directing kids? I mean, I've had very limited experience. There's a little cameo in my latest film where I dealt with kids, but how exactly do you get a performance out of a kid? I mean, how do you try to talk with them on their level? I mean, how did you accomplish it?
Well, there's definitely a reason why you don't see a lot of, horror films involving children, or movies in general. It's definitely a unpredictable field, much like working with animals on set. Unless you got them trained really well. But luckily, though, one thing about it is when you can actually pull something off, I think it makes it that much more believable.
Yeah, and most of the kids, they did great. I mean, if we had to, we just retake it till we got it to where it looked right.
Right. So now, how many you've been playing this all across the country? How many places have you gone to with this?
Well, Louisville, Kentucky, Friday Night Film Festival. We've taken to Sci-Fi Valley Con, Roanoke, Virginia, Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Quite a few places. I don't know the exact number right off. But.
Now, Matt, is this facial hair for a role? It's because you got your hair is completely different. Your facial hair is wasn't like you look like a different guy from when I last saw you at the event. Now, is this for your new film?
Well, no, it's not necessarily for that. It used to be a lot longer, and I actually cut it off for Youngblood to play the cop.
Okay, so this is you just going back to you.
I'm just kind of growing it back. It's kind of getting.
Do you play reggae on the side or something? Is that like a side gig? No. This is such a different. I'm still acclimating because there's a picture up on the screen of when I saw you last. And it's taking some getting used to. So now it's available for you. Have it released right now. You pretty much Matt, the technical director's got the before and after. Your current look and the look back at the screening. You guys have this available for release. I think are you self-releasing it? How do you have this out there?
What was the question? We're releasing it ourselves?
I said, yeah, you had self-release. I mean, are you pretty much are selling it on your website?
Yeah, youngbloodmovie.com. We've been distributing ourselves. We decided if we didn't get any kind of deal within about a year, we would just go ahead and start doing it ourselves because a lot of people have been asking about copies and stuff. So we went ahead and did that. Well, it was October 5th, 2013. Yeah.
What kind of reaction do you have from people in Virginia? Because it's a pretty conservative town. Like when you told them the storyline, did you have anybody giving you backlash about doing that kind of film, or how did that work?
Surprisingly, we haven't gotten a huge backlash like we figured was possible. We certainly realized that was a possibility, and we were kind of prepared for that. And strangely enough, even though we are from what most people consider to be a very conservative town, there wasn't really the big backlash that we thought may have happened. But we're kind of willing to take that risk, and I'm kind of glad we did, because I think there were a lot of people, when they were watching it, they were like, I can't believe I'm seeing something like this, and scenes like this are being filmed in my hometown. And I'm hoping that now, maybe it will make people realize the possibility that there can be more things like that. I know a little while after that, there was a performance of Rocky Horror at that same theater where we screened Young Blood, Evil Intentions, and Caesar and Otto's Deadly Xmas. And they actually had
that was a surreal night to do a double screening with you. So different than anything else.
Yeah, and I was going to say, when they did the performance, they actually had our local community college. They were actually involved with it too. And I know when I used to do drama at the community college, I was sitting there thinking, how cool would it be if we could perform Rocky Horror on stage? But that could never happen. And then surely enough, there's some type of involvement with the school, doing Rocky Horror. Now, I don't think there's necessarily any connection, but certainly now that people people are starting to realize what they might be able to get away with. And, we kind of been pushing our limits a little bit too.
You got to push some limits.
Your next film is Invasion of the Killer. What is the word?
How do you pronounce it?
Cicadas. Cicadas? Okay, so now how far along are you in production of that?
We are in post-production on that. I'm doing editing right now. I'm going to get some score music for it and maybe some final animation, hopefully, as well as maybe some, footage. Stock footage is the word I was looking for.
Yeah, we're just kind of putting the finishing touches on things and trying to get some of the, logo art and stuff like that. Some of those last things you have to do in those final stages.
Well,
we're really excited with how it's turning out so far. Go ahead.
We're looking forward to it. That's exciting stuff. Are you going to top yourself this time out? Is this the next? Is this film bigger then is it a bigger like scope film than you had with Youngbloods? Like more effects?
Actually, it's not. It's it's a short film, so it's not as ambitious.
It's a
as
short film. Oh.
We did it in less time, and we are going to try to top it in some ways by like adding animation if that's possible, having an epic soundtrack. We do got some aerial shots, some bird's eye views and things, shots we didn't have before. So there are improvements, but it's not like as big of a project as it was, because it is a short film.
Okay,
but it's longer than your average short film, because it's going to be probably around 30 minutes rather than the 5 to 10 minute short film that you get a lot of times.
So we're right toward the end of the show. We got one more guest that we're going to attend to, but how are people going to be able to find and track down your film? It's on your website, which is, once again...
Yeah, for Youngblood, there's we have Facebook, Twitter, our YouTube page where you can also view our trailer. And there's youngbloodmovie.com where you can order the DVD, and we also have T-shirts and posters on there. For Invasion of the Killer Cicadas, we have a Facebook page for that, facebook.com/Killer Cicadas.
Yeah, there's also a YouTube page for it soon too. It's not available yet, or tickets to premiere because it's not ready, but we are talking about doing a Kickstarter or something like that soon. Yeah. And so you can pre-order your DVDs and stuff to help us get through those last stages and things we got to do.
Yeah, and there's a YouTube channel for Killer Cicadas. So there's a
Okay,
YouTube
so yeah, that's coming up. Like it's not, I guess it's not up yet. But guys, thank you so much for calling in, and hopefully people will track down your film. Maybe we'll do another double screening down in Virginia one day.
Yeah, it sounds great. We love that. And thanks for having us on.
No doubt. Thanks.
Absolutely. Okay, we're going to cut now to a trailer for Angry Planet. This is Andrew Bellware's sci-fi film, and I believe, Andrew, if you're watching, if you can call in via Skype would be perfect.
Welcome to the penitentiary planet in Process 6. I am Marshal Stahl, the preeminent executive enforcement power on this global facility.
I've got movement. Form up. Check your sidearms.
Lower your weapons.
He's an android.
This is a call to arms, gentlemen. My deputies and I could keep order here the old-fashioned way.
Prisoner transfer, Elias West.
What kind of prisoner gets a combat android escort?
We gotta kill it!
Put the gun down.
Whose side are you on?
Form a line here.
I want that damn thing off my planet.
Andrew Bellware. How are you? Good to see you. Let me give you the audience an introduction to who Andrew is. Andrew is probably the most prolific, low-budget sci-fi filmmaker that I've ever come across. I'm going to ask him a question, and he's not going to be able to answer this. You ready? So, Andrew, how many feature films have you directed?
15.
Case in point, he's not even sure. He's just like Stephen King with pages. It's like, I'm awake, I'm writing. You're awake, you're making a film. You don't stop. You're an animal. And so, yeah, I'm looking at your filmography right here. My first film that I saw of yours was released through the distributor of my first film, Dark Chamber. Yours is Millennium Crisis. We came out side by side. It was your film and my film that came out.
Is that how we met?
Yeah, we met. Yeah, it was because we were both released through Shakarama. And like, your film looks really cool. And
so we shared distributors, which, kids, you really shouldn't share distributors without proper protection, but yeah.
Yeah, we learned our lesson. Yeah, we got the clap after that, pal. Yeah, and
couple of pills afterwards were fine.
But what I noticed on the feature is, how well made some of the character scenes were, and how unique your storytelling was. And
thanks.
Absolutely, it's completely true. And I noticed that there was just little character moments that sometimes were without dialogue, and they had such they had such resonance, you know, like between your imagery and the soundtrack.
Those are probably not my doing. That's probably more the writing and good actors. I was just.
You were visually telling a story. It was all you.
I was just there with a camera for a lot of that. We've been very lucky, I think, on our movies, and the thing that we try to play is because we're in New York, so we can get great actors. There's a lot of really fabulous talent here, and I used to be part of a theater company that was downtown. I was a founding member. Manhattan Theater Source is what it was called, and that's where our offices used to be. And so we've been very fortunate to know and to be able to work with a lot of really great New York talent.
All right. Now, let me ask you this. You've done a lot of different films. Angry Planet says on IMDb that it came out that it was made in 2008. So what is this fan? Is this some director's cut? Something new? Because it says Angry Planet 2012 edition.
For some reason, it never ever got North American distribution until late last year. I don't know why. It's actually one of my favorite movies. It's one of our darkest movies, but I really enjoy the movie a lot. But I think it got like a Russian release, and we may have gotten a Japanese version out 6 years ago, but now we're finally getting a North American version.
Now, how do you manage to make so many films within such a short period of time? I mean, do you deal drugs? Do you make a lot of money that way? Because this takes a lot of money to make these films. So either you're like a mass criminal, or your films are actually making money.
We don't spend any money. That's rule number one. Just don't spend any money. I don't mean to be like really wishy-washy about it, but honestly, the biggest, most important thing if you want to make films is to have a lot of friends who actually want to see you succeed at it. And I know that seems kind of hippy-dippy, but it really is true. If you have people who are really willing to put up with your nonsense for all the time that it takes to make a feature film, which is a phenomenal amount of work, obviously, it really helps.
Now, a lot of your sets are built where? Like when you have a scene that's inside a spaceship, because I saw Alien Uprising. Alien Uprising.
Remember that thing about having good friends? I work with some great people. I've got a buddy, Joe Chapman, who's out in Allentown, Pennsylvania, who actually he builds these magnificent sets, and he has a soundstage out there. So if you're looking for a soundstage, look up Chapman Productions in Allentown, Pennsylvania.
Chapman Productions, Allentown, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Do I get a special Andrew Bellware discount?
Oh, absolutely. Are you kidding? For you?
Okay, good. That's what I need to hear. Now, you went from Pandora's Machine, I think was your first one. You had done like Shakespeare, and then you're like, the hell with Shakespeare, I'm doing sci-fi. And
yeah. My first movie was a Hamlet shot on a toy video camera, which is not a good idea. Kids at home, please don't make
Hamlet's big with the little children.
Shakespeare-based and shoot it on a toy video camera. Nobody wants to see that. And then my second movie was based on John Milton's Paradise Lost, which also nobody wants to see. So we made a science fiction movie for our third one, and we actually got distribution on it.
And you found that like science fiction has been your niche. It's sort of been what you're doing.
It has been.
Since then.
We've been lucky. I think we've been lucky for two things. One, there aren't a lot of people doing science fiction, so there's a little bit more of a market for it. And two, for me personally, I've been thinking just watching all these horror directors. Directing horror has to be the single most difficult kind of directing to do. I can't do it, so I just don't. But
well, you sort of directed horror with Alien Uprising, though. You have horror elements.
Yeah, it does. But I'd be better off doing an action movie as much as we can on a no budget than a real horror movie. Because, man, the pacing of a horror movie is really, really specific. And you horror guys, just, I don't know what the hell you're doing.
When are you going to send Caesar and Otto in outer space, by the way?
Oh, yeah. The other thing our distributor hates is anything that's camp. But that's
okay, never.
You
Then
went to
the answer-
camp motion pictures and we didn't.
So now you went from Angry Planet, which was sort of like a little akin to Alien, Clone Hunter, A Battle, New York, Day 2,
Right.
Total Retribution,
Which was originally
Android.
called Earth Killer, and I do have to say that Earth Killer was a better title on Total Retribution.
Android, Insurrection, Prometheus Trap. Is Prometheus Trap any kind of sequel, or these are all original films?
They're all original. I mean, Prometheus Trap, I mean, let's be honest, Prometheus Trap was a mockbuster.
Andrew, you've become very, very white.
Yes, I did become very light, but can you hear me?
I can hear you. You know, but definitely,
I don't know what happened to me.
You gotta get a little sun. You're looking extremely. Oh, there
Replace it
you
with
go.
Something else. Oh, I'm almost back.
Yeah.
Prometheus Trap is it's a original movie written by a guy named Stephen J. Niles, who's this brilliant writer that we've been working with. And so, yeah, it's a mockbuster of Prometheus, but it has nothing to do with the Ridley Scott Prometheus at all, except for we've got some really nice space helmets in it. And
yeah, I'm blown away by your production value and what you're able to do. You know, and you just do it time and time again. Are there times? Let me ask you something, Andrew. You deal with we indie filmmakers get a lot of crap from people who just don't understand why their film that they're watching is not $1 million. Because we're doing it for next to nothing, and we're stretching that penny for the absolute, until the absolute bitter end. Now, are there times, that you think, I don't want to do this anymore, this is just too much frustration, or are you just in it until forever? Until, someone
I had one
is
of
giving you
those
bigger
days
budget?
today.
Really?
I mean, today, last week, my distributor's just been yelling at me. And that, by the way, is one of the advantages of doing genre films, is that you get to say, my distributor's been yelling at me. If we're doing art house films, then we'd be saying, oh, we didn't get into another film festival again. But in any case, they've been yelling at us about the pictures that we've been able to give to them for the key art on a new movie that has to be done on Saturday, I think. So yes, today is one of those days where I do think, wow, I could have been a truck driver.
I don't think you'd be happy, because you're also a musician. You are also, you play in a band, Tyrannosaurus Rex, Mouse?
Tyrannosaurus Mouse.
Right, so you're a guitar player too. I mean, you're like, you couldn't be happy driving a truck.
Oh yeah, it's true. I do recognize that the worst day of being a filmmaker, which can be a pretty bad day, is still better than a good day working in a cubicle. So I can't complain.
Okay, we're almost out of time, but let me ask you this very articulate question: what would you consider your best work and your most sucky work?
Well, actually, I mean, I've been saying that Angry Planet is the best movie. I do have a thing for Prometheus Trap. And maybe the new movie that we've got coming out called Dead Residents, which will probably have its name changed by the time it comes out. My worst one, there are pieces of some movies that I really, really don't like. There's a thing in Alien Uprising that I don't like, the monster death at the end.
But I'm always, I enjoyed Alien Uprising. I did, and I thought the pacing of that film was great.
The monster attacking the final girl at the end was just a little bit better. It's just my complaint about it.
Well, it was still more convincing than Jaws: The Revenge of Shark.
That's a low bar, man.
So, Andrew, you're a wonderful guest. You're a wonderful guy. I always love talking to you. I love your blog.
It's great talking to you.
Pleasure for the Imperial. What was it called? Pleasure for the Empire? What is your blog?
The best blog for filmmaking is the blog that is at my site, which is pandoramachine.com. So if you go to pandoramachine.com and search around, you'll find the blog. And if you want to get way too much technical information about filmmaking, it's there, because I write down everything.
Yeah, you're a great cast, and we're gonna call it a night for Nerdgasm. Thank you so much. Why don't you give this the send off? You know, because I do it all the time. I'm gonna let the guest, you know, tell everybody good night.
Hey, have a good night from Nerdgasm.
Hell yeah! Bring on the credits. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you for all the guests tonight. You did an amazing job.